SoFloRadio.com and SoFloTelevision.com.
Since the dawn of civilization, the elusive quest in pursuit of the perfect drink continues to evolve. Now more than ever, we reap the rewards of this passion. The perfect vintage, the finest brew, or a spirit of optimum age and class. And now, SoFloRadio.com invites you to discover the wonderful world of booze by the glass.
Alrighty, hey, welcome to By the Glass. I'm your host, Brett Hubbard, welcoming you to another great episode of some wonderful beverage culture, and we continue on with that beer phenomenon called local craft. It's awesome, and I'm joined in the studio by.
Did you rhyme that on purpose? Local,
it just came out of my
craft.
mouth.
That you steal that from somebody?
I did. I stole it from you.
All right.
That's why you're saying it. Anyway.
No.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome in. Tonight we have another great show, and it really is all about that local aspect. I've been doing a lot of these lately because there's so many really good local breweries that are coming around. So I'm very, very pleased to have Matt Cox and Al Lattera from Copper Top Brewing in the house. Thanks, guys, for coming in.
Yeah.
Hey, you're probably going to want to speak right into that mic.
And scoot way forward, like all the way forward. No, like up to the
He's
table.
Scared of it.
Up to the table, my friend.
Don't be scared.
Keep
Ain't
coming.
Scared.
Keep coming up to the table there. Right up to the table. Keep coming towards the table there.
Well, it's very interesting to have you guys in-house because you guys are creating a new craft brewery. I've been following on Facebook and Copper Top Brewing, and I see some of the equipment coming in, and everything seems like it's really going. We discussed a little bit before the show some of the equipment that you have from previous stuff. And the thing is, Matt, you have a rich history within the South Florida community. More than most, as you well know, a lot of people are really getting turned on to the craft scene and good beverage as a whole. I remember when I got into the beverage world about 15 years ago, it was wine. I'm a wine guy, still am, and that's kind of where I was at. But you jumped in both feet with craft beer, correct?
Yeah, a long time ago before the craft explosion really happened, and kind of seen a lot of changes happen in the industry, and it's great to see South Florida really embracing craft beer right now and huge growth in the area.
So when you talk about a long time ago, I mean, you had some ups and downs. I remember in the mid to late 90s, there was that whole craft explosion that happened. I mean, you were in it at that point too, correct?
Yeah, the huge brew pub phenomenon that happened started about 1999, and I got into it about that time and kind of started working in breweries and went through the whole explosion and the hops. Chain restaurants that really came in, exposed South Florida to craft beers, and that's where it kind of all started down here.
What did you think? Okay, so it's late 90s, and you're an avid beer drinker. What did you think when you saw the first hops restaurants and everything, the whole setup and everything, and the people actually having? I mean, that's not your typical brew pub, right? That's a corporate entity with a restaurant.
Yeah,
more so with the equipment and everything right there. How did you feel about that?
I was excited to see it. Back then I was about 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited to see it. I mean, it was fascinating for me. I was always really into beers, and to see something like that was my first exposure to microbreweries and craft beers and stuff like that. So to see that, it was really exciting. Unfortunately, some of the beers that came through those locations weren't the best, but it really, got people used to seeing small breweries and how they operated and the beers they turned out, and exposed them to the craft market.
Before the hops in South Florida, I know because I lived in San Francisco in 94, 95, and 96 and started drinking Anchor Steam and Sierra Nevada out there when I lived there, and got turned on to mostly European great stuff. I was drinking a lot of Paul Lander, was always my go-to spot, and like I said, the Anchor and the Sierra. But I was drinking wine mostly too, so I was getting turned on to everything. But I moved back to Florida, and it was just void. It was just a complete void. I moved back in like 97, 98. It was a complete void. But down here, other than Sierra, maybe bottles I don't even think it was in the state back then. I mean, what was there at the time? I mean,
well, I tell you, Anchor Steam Anchor Brewing was one of the the pioneers in the entire craft business, and they started about in 1975. Sierra Nevada came in; they started about 1982. So they're the real, probably the two pioneers in the entire craft industry. Mm-hmm. And that got out there, got into the market, and it kind of, people that used to think that European beers and imports were the good stuff, because you used to go into establishments, bars, restaurants, stuff like that, and it would be domestic.
Hey, it costs more.
Yeah,
right?
it costs more. It's got to be better. So domestic was Budweiser,
sure,
or something of the likes, and import was something from Europe.
Right.
But there was no domestic craft. So Anchor Steam, or Anchor Brewing, and Sierra Nevada, they were the ones that really exposed America to the craft market, and they did a fantastic job of it.
But specific to South Florida, do you remember when you could first get it down here? I'm just wondering, because I know probably around that time you first saw hops pop up.
It was around that time, and I remember around that time too that the ice beers started to become popular, like Molson Ice, Light Ice, Ice House.
My sister drank Bud Ice Dry or something like that.
Classic.
I was like, you guys have names in this beer?
And it was fun
Light,
back then.
Bud Ice Dry Light.
but because that was the new beer on the market, so that was exciting.
Well, and the funny thing is, an ice vice, and an ice beer, that you get in Germany, or ones that come from Europe or whatever. Those are craft beers,
Yeah.
But and then you have the Canadian beers, which are always. See, I'm from upstate New York, and we drank Molson and Labatt's and Moosehead.
Yeah.
And those were great beers. Close to some of the craft lagers that we have today, some of the craft pilsners, but of course nobody made ales. I mean, I drank Jenny Cream Ale, which was cream ales are nice hybrid beers.
Yeah, nice kind of kind of
they were
fermented and all that. But Molson Ice was one that really made a big splash on the market, and it was something that really changed it. It was higher alcohol, it was a big bold flavor, and it really kind of changed the market on that, and people kind of stood back, and that started the whole ice beer phenomenon. But over in Germany, where that typically came from, where they make box,
right?
They would freeze those.
It was ice and box. Right?
Yeah, ice box. And it really concentrated the alcohol in there. So you take a beer that's, say, 7%, you freeze it, they remove the water from that, and then you get a beer that's 10%. So it's really full flavored, really intense, and really a fun beer. So it was a big change to the market. And I remember back then, I was really excited to have those beers, and it was fun because you finally saw new beers on the market where typically there were not.
So before you saw the hops, but you see all these beers coming out, did you ever imagine that you could brew and make beer yourself? Because no one, these days, people are like, oh, I can brew. Everybody's brewing, home brew, we got brew, blah, blah, blah. But back then it was a crazy concept. Never in a million years did I ever think I could make beer myself. You know what I mean?
It's not a thought that even crossed my mind. I was just excited to see new beers on the market. I was always fascinated by beer.
Yeah.
Just always loved it, really kind of gravitated towards it. And it really, I got excited by it, and I was excited to see it, and never even begin to fathom that I would brew my own beer. But I always knew that, it was something that really always fascinated me, and I loved everything about it.
That's fantastic. So moving forward a little bit, Big Bear Brewing pub. Well, what is it? It's Brew House. Big Bear Brew House.
Yeah, Big Bear Brewing Company. In Coral Springs.
And Coral Springs, still there, still running strong, better than ever. Definitely doing good business.
Opened in 1997.
1997. Now, how did you get affiliated with them?
I brewed down here in South Florida for a few years. And then I came in there in 2001 and took over brewing operations. And I was the brewmaster there from 2001 till this year, 2014, up till just a couple months ago.
So when you came upon them and took over operations, what was going on in there? Did they have legitimate people from outside, or when they started it? How did it start? It's a single entity, right? It's not
single entity.
So
and they came in. They had a good staple lineup of beers. They had about 5 brewmasters in 5 years or so. So they really kind of had trouble tracking down somebody to.
So it wasn't a brewmaster himself who said, I want to open a restaurant brew pub because no one is doing this.
Yeah, it was a restaurant owner that said, I want to have a brew pub.
Okay, and where did he come from?
Down here.
He was from South Florida,
local area,
and he was inspired by maybe traveling around the rest of the country.
Yeah, and seeing the trend and the brew pub thing, and it was really fascinating to him. And opened up there. So beautiful facility, built from the ground up as a brewery, and they built it and did a great job with it, and put in a really nice brewing system, and it's been operational for 17 and a half years now.
How big is the brew house?
Brew house is a 10-barrel brewing system. There's 5 fermenters, six bright beer tanks in there, so good capacity. And it, a very busy restaurant, and it serves the restaurant well, and it's, well designed.
How many half barrels can you yield in one full cycle of making beer? Let's say I know it's 10-barrel system, but I mean from.
So 10-barrel system, a barrel is 31 gallons, and a half keg or half barrel is 15.5 gallons. So in one batch there, you'll get 20 kegs out of a batch. So if there's 6 bright beer tanks there, if they're all full at one time, you would have 120 kegs of beer in stock and ready to go.
And predominantly ales, or do you make lagers as well?
Predominantly ales, sometimes lagers, depending on the time of the year.
They have glycol jacketed.
Yeah, all jacketed tanks. That's how they're all cooled, all that. So it keeps them, chilled and temperature controlled, and how they're all temperature controlled during fermentation.
Did you
process.
have did you go from bright tank right into the tap system, or did you keg the beer?
No, from the way the system's designed, there's draft lines that go directly from the bright tanks straight up to the bar. Yeah, works extremely well. So you don't have to have 120 kegs of beer in a walk-in somewhere.
Or did you have the ability to keg just from a hose? And
you have the ability to, but if you have one tank that can hold 20 kegs of beer, there's no reason to put into the kegs, and it's extremely easy, efficient. And it's a great system to work with.
The reason I ask you all this is because people at home, I think, want to know. I don't think a lot of people ask these questions. The brew pub itself, we don't really have a lot of brew pubs in South Florida, and the ones we do have are not set up professionally like that.
Yeah.
The reason I know about all that stuff is because I studied it, for certain reasons. But I don't think a lot of people understand that it comes right out of that one tank, and the efficiencies of it. And let's say, so did each tank go to a different tap, so you have all the different beers in different bright tanks, or how many different flavors and styles were we talking about?
Each tank would hold one particular type of beer.
Yeah.
So when that beer would run out, we would clean it, sanitize it, purge it of all the oxygen, put a new batch of beer in there. So extremely efficient system. So 6 tanks, they're all designated for the type of beer that's in there. Mm-hmm. Some are stable year-round beers, some are seasonal beers, something to that effect.
Right.
And so, great system, easy, temperature controlled. So they're like giant kegs.
So you were in charge of purchasing the brewmaster, and you also did all the purchasing of the products, like buying the hops and the grain, so to speak, and the yeast and whatnot. So how was that experience? And we're going to get into Copper Top real soon. I know. I just kind of want to give everybody a background on you. Yeah. How was that experience purchasing all that stuff? Because that's a big part of today, hop contracts and everything that's going on. And
contracts are a huge part of it now, yeah.
Right? So how did that whole thing happen back then as opposed to now?
Well, it was good evolution to see, how the industry has evolved, because back then, didn't used to be a problem to get any variety of hops you needed, certain types of malts, stuff like that. But now, the brewing market's really exploded. So, now you have to forward contract hops, 2, 3, 4 years, things like that. So if you want to put a decent IPA on the market, you've got to be looking years out to secure the type of hops that you want, to create the flavor profile that you want. There's certain types of hops that, they're in such short supply. Everybody's kind of fighting for them. Right. And it's really something that the general public doesn't see. They just know good beer or bad beer. But, we really have to look forward years and years, and especially on a startup operation like ours, it's difficult to, get in and secure the raw materials that we need, to create a great product.
Yeah, they call them the hop union, one of the main providers in the United States. I mean, it's because they are a union. There's not a lot of people producing hops. There's not a lot of regions that can produce hops in the United States, so they're very limited. It's not like just anybody can start up a hop farm.
Yeah, it takes years from first planting to where they're mature to where they actually get a good harvest. And when they create new varieties of hops, it could take 5 to 7 years from the first cultivation to when they go into commercial production. So there's all kinds of experimental varieties going on. There's kind of a new trend in hops right now that has kind of a tropical, fruity kind of characteristic to them. So, some of the new ones you'll get, flavors like mango, tangerine, lemons, things like that. So, when they come up with flavors like that, and they do crossbreeding programs, and that's how they, get these flavors to come through in the hops. So it's no, genetically modified things. They just crossbreed different varieties, and they come to these new kind of flavor profiles. That's how they get it. But it takes years and years and years to do it, and it's a very slow process. So a time period like this right now, craft brewing's really exploding. The hop industry is really struggling to keep up with the demand of the craft brewers and the flavor profiles that they demand as well.
Yeah, and all the more interesting for you to branch out at this point onto your own. So let's we can actually bust open a beer right now. I'm sure George is like hallelujah.
What beer on this show?
Let's do it. So we'll pass around some of these.
The wrong day to quit drinking.
Yeah, right. And as we look at some of these different beers, what we're going to do is we're going to talk to Matt a little bit about and how he branched out into Copper Top. And he's got some, he's in good company. I know that our friend of the show, Matt and Fran from Tequesta, I know that you have some history with those guys too.
Right behind you, man.
Here you go. Here we go. They're looking for an opener.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere, my friend. Yeah, beautiful. Right?
Yeah, so I started working with Fran, that's now at Tequesta Brewing, about 15 years ago at Bruzy in Boca Raton.
Right.
And we kind of two of the veterans in the craft brewing industry. So, good friends and really kind of come up through the ranks together. And it's good to see the industry where it is. And, it's great to see the success that they've had at Tequesta Brewing. And it's fun to see where the industry is going in South Florida right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so basically you felt it was time to kind of get out on your own and start to do your own thing. So tell us a little bit about that, the thought process behind that, and especially now because it's such an interesting environment out there.
It is. And we started this project about 4 years ago. I met Al through a mutual friend, and, we decided that, it's a good time to do it. The market was right here in South Florida, and, we wanted to go forward with this. And, it took us about 4 years to put the entire project together between, deciding what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it, how big on the scale wise that we wanted to go, raising capital, finding a location, getting through all the legal issues, identifying, a few investors that we really wanted involved with the company, and getting through all that. So that whole process took about 4 years, and, we're finally here. We're about a month away from opening, so it's really exciting to be, here at this point right now.
Great. Let's branch off a little bit onto the actual beer. We've poured some, and I have a wonderful Saison in front of me, and it's just absolutely beautiful color.
Smells great.
It really does. Looks great, smells great. Let's take a sip, and we'll have Matt talk a little bit about this wonderful Saison he's produced.
So this is a really classical Saison.
Very refreshing. Absolutely. Just like wonderful
crisp,
flavor.
dry, refreshing. And I really got inspired to, brew a Saison. This is the first one I ever brewed, actually. I had a dry hopped Saison DuPont about 6 months ago at an account, and I really fell in love with it. I loved the real bold hoppiness to it, and it's really what inspired me to brew this beer. So we did a really classical Saison, warm fermented. We fermented this one about 85, 86 degrees in there, hopped it, very heavily with some classic noble hops. You used the classic, yeast that Saison DuPont uses.
Right.
So we've got a real crisp effervescence to it. We've got that nice kind of grassy floral texture to it, but dry finish, very estery from the warm fermentation, but very refreshing, very drinkable, and not too high in alcohol. This is about 6% alcohol, but relatively high on the IBU side, about 45 IBUs, but something that's refreshing, and you could really kick back a few.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it's dynamic in a lot of ways and comes through incredibly with a lot of complexities on the palate, but it does not overdo anything at all. I mean, generally with Saisons, attenuation to phenolic ratio for me really throws me off.
What?
Yeah.
Something that's dry and way too dry.
What are those
and
words?
Peppery, okay, to put it in layman's terms.
Oh,
It's usually the problem I have, And if the body on this is beautiful. It drinks really, really easy.
That's nice. Thanks for making it nice.
What was
and
your
cold,
what was your original gravity?
It was about 14 Play-Doh on
Oh
that.
wow, yeah. So it certainly doesn't seem like it's like anywhere near there. Was it like at 8% or something like that, or something?
About 6%.
A 6. Okay.
So not crazy high.
No,
I wanted
it's,
something. This is more of a warm weather beer, which obviously we get a little bit of down here in Florida. Wanted to be, if it's 90 degrees outside, that you could kick back and have a nice, flavorful, dry, refreshing beer.
And this is just everything about that, absolutely. And classic, like you said, the classic style of yeast profile there. It'll give you just enough of that Belgian touch, but nothing overdoes it. Everything is really, I get all these dynamic flavors coming from this beer.
It is. It's got
Stone fruits. I get all those
citrus
stone
in there.
fruits I'm
I
looking
think.
for apricots and peaches.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to do with this was leave it completely unspiced. So a lot of domestic.
That's what I like about it. Like, so
Saisons
the phenol
are spiced. So people will put in chamomile, coriander, lemon peels to try to emulate the original beer that has all those flavors. But if you do it right, use the right yeast, right fermentation temperature, you get all those, but in a very balanced manner. So this one's kind of naked, I call it, no spices, just the yeast, the hops, and let it go.
It's fresh and clean, but doesn't have a raw, unfinished aspect to it. There's certain, even when I drink large breweries, sometimes
What happened there?
I'll go and I won't name any breweries, but some breweries I've been to, even large breweries, large craft breweries, I go to. Sometimes their beer it tastes really fresh because it's just coming right off the tank, but it seems still kind of raw to me. You need that finishing aspect to where the complexities are binded together, and it doesn't have that really raw flavor, which means it's just a little bit unfinished. Even though they're large professionals in putting it out, there's sometimes there's just something missing in certain types of beers, and this one here, man, it just really hits the money.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, one of my big things in brewing is balance. I'm a huge fan of balance. I don't want it to be too dry. I don't want it to be too sweet. I don't want any aspect to be out of balance. So that's something I shoot for in all the beers I do, and I think this one really hit the mark on.
That's
on
a
all
good
sides
description
of it.
because there's nothing that's really pronounced. It's just a lot of nice flavors going on.
But there's a lot of complexity and a lot of dynamics, but all of them together, still with their balance.
Yeah. Creates this great symphony of taste.
That's a perfect word, symphony.
And it tastes like it smells. It's not. I mean, it smells good.
yeah.
It tastes good. It's it's
So you said you did dry hop this or not?
No,
I
did not
didn't
dry
think so.
hop
Okay,
this.
yeah, but you used what you see, a Hallertau or a Spalt?
I used Tettnang,
Tettnang.
Spalt, Czech Saaz, so kind of the
So
classic.
all the
noble
classic
varieties.
nobles,
Yep.
which are great, and I love how the hops come through like 3/4 of the palate, way back in the tongue, right?
I wasn't charting that. No, let me give that a
sip.
shot. Yeah.
Is that where you get them? Kind of like not right.
a nice finishing bitterness. And,
They're way back there on the tongue, though, just to dry it out just enough so you can get some more. I mean, all of the fruits play out first. That symphony.
yes.
And then the bittering hop comes through, and there's, you really have to be a master with your hand on bittering hops because isomerization is such a tricky bitch.
I was just thinking that the other day, man.
Well,
Isomerization,
especially
man, it's like,
when you're working with all boil hops, what
Yeah.
I mean, and no essential oils.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your processes there.
So the process here is I like to go, not too heavy-handed on the bittering hops of it.
Yeah.
I like to go pretty heavy on the flavor and aromatics of
Right.
it. Bitter beers are not pleasant to anybody.
Right.
Where I really truly get good balance of flavor is on the flavor and aromatics. So I want bold flavor. I want bold aromatics, And especially, on a beer like this beer was brewed in the summertime and it was bottle conditioned. So now it's just really starting to round out and really come into its own, whereas, spot on. It has that classic European character to it. So those hops are going to mellow over time, but you really have to give it a heavy dose on the beginning side for everything to mellow out, in the end. And we drink it now, and it just has that great symphony of, perfectly balanced flavors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes across wonderfully. Definitely. So, we talked a little bit about this wonderful Saison here, and we're going to get into the actual brewery. So I looked on Facebook, and there's a cool little video of them pouring the floor for the brew house. What's that all about? Talk to me about that.
So we have about an 8,000 square foot warehouse facility where the brewing system's going to go, and we cut out about 4,000 square feet of it. So then we put in trench drains. We put in, rebar and all kinds of, reinforcement under it. And we came in on top and we poured about 6 trucks of concrete in to create a slope floor where the floor slope goes all into the trench drains. So it creates the perfect environment for a brewery where anything that spills out of a tank runs directly into the drains itself.
Oh, wow.
So, incredibly time-consuming, expensive process, but to have a successful brewery, you have to have proper floors in there.
That's amazing. Now, so the building was an existing building?
Existing building, yeah.
And it looked like it was a concrete shell? I
Couldn't
really tell.
It's a steel building,
Okay.
Big building. The peak of the building's about 30 feet high. So great building for a brewery. We can put huge tanks in there. So when we need to put in 150 barrel tanks, we have plenty of ceiling height to do that. We're really doing everything to go forward for forward expansion. So, we're looking years and years out, not a couple of months out. So we've spent a lot of money on the front end to, do proper floors, oversized boiler system for the beer, oversized chiller system for the beer. So, we're not going to have any slowdowns when we go to expand, in 6 months, in a year, stuff like that. So we're really looking forward to the future. But, we've spent a lot of money on the infrastructure to make sure everything's done properly.
Talk to me about the location of the brewery.
So the location's in Boynton Beach, Florida. It's right off Gateway in 95. It's on High Ridge Road, and our physical address is 151 Commerce. So great building. It was pre-existing manufacturing. Plenty of space there, plenty of parking. We've got our tasting room's going to be over 2,500 square feet. We're going to have an outside deck, like a wooden deck and patio. We've got a mezzanine up above. So our people space is, fantastic. We can fit a lot of people in there. So we hope to do some big events. We're going to have, catering companies and food trucks come in to provide food. But, we're really excited about the space and the amount of people space we have in there. So we're going to build out a really beautiful air-conditioned tasting room. Really excited. It's great space, and I couldn't have found a better space for the project.
How is Boynton Beach and working with you I know that I've talked to a lot of other breweries in the past, and they, the nightmare stories I heard, like everybody down that's going on with Wynwood right now. They just keep getting pushed back and pushed back. Wynwood Brewery themselves. I talked to Jonathan Wakefield the other day. We've talked to Concrete Beach, which pushed back forever. Just nightmares, and because of the city, and so
the cities can be a huge hurdle to come across and a huge barrier. And it took us 9 months to find a location that we really liked. So the city of Boynton Beach has actually been very friendly to us and worked with us, extremely well. So, they actually kind of recruited us to come into the city. And, we've been very happy with the city of Boynton Beach. We were just at a city council meeting 2 nights ago. They really welcomed us into the city. And, great things to say about the city of Boynton Beach, and we're really happy to be there in the city.
So I know that, of course, Due South's right around the corner, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, they've kind of paved the way for people to know that. Is that going to be like a brewing area, kind of like they have in Wynwood? What are the hopes?
The hopes are to create a brewing area, and it's somewhat of a commercial industrial area, but everything's friendly there. It's a good neighborhood. It's clean. The city of Boynton Beach loves to see breweries come in, and it's good for the entire city. It brings new traffic into the city. It's good for everybody all around.
Yeah, I know they always have good food trucks out there and everything, and people just hopefully when everything gets up and running, have a big festival and whatnot. And the sky's the limit for what can really happen. And what I love about craft breweries, and we talk about it a lot, is what they give back to the local community as far as economy too. I don't think a lot of people realize that. I mean, the fact of the matter is that it creates a lot of wealth for the economy going forward. I mean, how is your views on that whole thing?
It does. People are going to come into town for events that we do and events that happen in the city. There's hotels, restaurants nearby that are going to benefit from it. Certain times of years when we do big beer festivals, in the area, it brings thousands of people into the area. And so, it's great. And Boynton realizes it. And they're embracing it, and they want new breweries to come in, and they're not giving us a hard time like most other cities are doing to local businesses, because what it boils down to is we're a small business wants to come into a city and open up, and they love it. It creates jobs, it creates a buzz for the city. It's good for businesses around, so it's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely, fantastic. What's your role, Al? Are you a part owner? Are you the manager? What's your?
Matt and I are equal partners.
Okay.
We came together 4 years ago. I actually making sure the microphone's on.
So you guys are equal partners.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we're equal
Al Lattera,
partners,
yes.
and we met about 4 years ago, and we started putting together a business plan. We kind of stopped for a little while, and try to rethink what we were doing, and came back and got a lot of momentum. And I'm more on the business side of things, but I do have a brewing background, involved with Sweetwater Brewing Company out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
And I had some experience of being around some exceptional people in the late 90s, early 2000s of starting that brewery, and found the best brewer in the South Florida market, basically, and said, hey, listen, we got a great opportunity in front of us to make the best, highest quality beers in the market, and that's what we're focused on right now. Excited to be starting the project. We, like Matt said, we started talking about it 4 years ago, stopped for a little while, and some good things have been happening, and now we're back full force and got a warehouse that's majorly under construction right now, and it's exciting.
Obviously you tour around and see all the other people that, have you been down to the Wynwood breweries and up to, I guess, Saltwater's right there too and whatnot?
I haven't made it down to Wynwood yet. I've visited.
It's far.
Yeah,
it's far for us because you want to have a few pints and stuff to drive home.
Far.
It's a good hike for me. I've got a wife and 2 kids. And
sure,
it's tough.
Don't we all?
Yeah, tough to make it down to Miami, but I want to get down and visit new breweries every time I can. And I'm good friends with all the guys in the industry, and just see them at all the events around, and we're all friendly and trade ideas and try to help each other out. So it's still, a small, friendly community, and we try to help each other out and, really support each other and everything. So it's good to see new breweries coming into the area.
But we've gone down to Funky Buddha, to Cuesta, just over to the West Coast, all up and down whenever we can. Wynwood's a little far just because it's,
no, I hear
Miami
you.
area,
Absolutely.
but definitely love going down there.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're starting to pop up in odd spots. I know there's the Miami Brewing Company's way down in the Redlands, and that's like one you hit on the way to the Keys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, way down there. My father-in-law actually helped build the building down there. For Schnebley Winery.
Yes.
So yeah, good connection there. But yeah, you see breweries popping up in Redlands and stuff like that, and you really realize that South Florida, like the culture is changing. So it's great to see.
It really is. I guess we'll take a quick break, but when we come back,
Sure.
I want to talk about the equipment in the brew house, and basically I see that stuff loading in and whatnot, and we'll talk about the pilot system.
Yep.
And where you got it and all that fun stuff. We'll do all that when we come back on By the Glass on ShowFlowRadio.com.
Spanking terrestrial radio with a nail paddle. SoFlowRadio.com.
Put a team of professional consultants behind your home or business computer with Key Information Solutions, providing solutions to your internet and computing needs while keeping you on the cutting edge of technology. Preventative maintenance and networking support, hardware and custom-built computers. Let Key Information Solutions be your personal tech staff for your home or office with affordable hourly, monthly, or annual rates to fit anyone's budget. Call Key Information Solutions now. 954-973-3374. That's 954-973-3374. Or visit keyinformation.com.
Broadcast radio production, sound design, audio, talk shows, commercials, trailers, voiceovers, webcasting, engineering, music. Learn how for a lot less than $10,000. Send a text to 954-803-9717. That's 954-803-9717.
Hi, this is Jeff Cohen of the Pizza Loft. The Pizza Loft has been making the best pizza in South Florida for over 300 years.
Wait a minute. Whoa.
What?
Just because you make the best pizza in town don't necessarily mean you can voice your own commercials.
Why not? Look, I just painted my nails for this.
You just get back in the kitchen and do what you know best, okay?
Well, if you think you can do a better job.
A dead man can do better at this, and I'm almost there. Now scram.
All right.
Now see here. You want the best pizza in town? Not to mention a full menu of mouth-watering Italian dishes at prices the whole family can afford? Then you ought to know by now, Pizza Loft is the place for great Italian dining. And the pizza... Mo knows, I stole my share. That's Pizza Loft, 3514 South University Drive in Davie. Or call 954-916-8880.
SoFloRadio.com remains on the air with free archives thanks to the support of our listeners. Help keep us on the air by clicking the donate button on SoFloRadio.com. And thank you for your generous support. And now we return you to By the Glass.
Hey, welcome back to By the Glass Show. This is a lot of fun here tonight. We are in with Matt Cox and Al Lattera from Copper Top Brewery. And it's a great time because, you know, the interesting thing is there's a lot of really interesting and good breweries popping up, but Matt has got a lot of history in the South Florida market with brewing, and he knows his stuff. I mean, if we've tried these beers, George, I know his stuff.
This is really good. It's amazing beer.
It really is, and it's the kind of beer that you're looking for because it's diverse, it's complex and dynamic, but still is easy drinking. I mean, do you find a lot of beers to just overdo it? I mean, you talked about beers that were over bitter, and nobody wants to drink a really over bitter beer, but there's a lot of them out there, right?
Yeah, I tell you what, I love to see balance. I don't like it to be too sweet. I don't like it to be too hoppy. If it's an IPA, I don't like it to be over dry hopped. I want balance. I want bold flavors, but I want balance. Yeah, and that's how I design my beers.
Yeah, and brewing, you know, it seems glamorous, but it's hard work, right? I mean, it's hard work.
It is. It's 90%, down in the trenches and dirty hard work. I mean, any profession that you see on dirty jobs is, not pretty. There's a small little glamorous side to it when you do beer festivals and award ceremonies and stuff like that. But 90% of it, it's hot, it's dirty, and it's a tough job. And just getting in on that's not even taken into consideration the chemistry side and making everything match and everything good. And there's, 1,000 things that go into a good beer, and people only see one or two, and they say, oh, the malt or the hops, but there's 1,000 things that go into it: water, pH, and
many components,
all that good stuff. So all that's there on every single beer. So it just, it's great to see it all come together.
There's the guys that are opening up that are going to be neighbors of yours. I think the Barrel of Monks guys. If you talk to Matt Abbott. Is it not Matt Abbott?
It's Kevin
Abbott. I'm sorry,
yeah.
Kevin Abbott.
Yeah, I was down there about 2 weeks ago and saw their project. It's coming together, and they're doing a great job with it. I know they had a few struggles with the city of Boca Raton, but they've worked through them, and they're putting a really nice facility together over there. So
the reason I ask about that is because he talked about I ran into him. He talked to me about his lab. He's like, we got this lab. You know what I mean? And it's like a lot of people don't understand the chemistry of beer.
Yeah.
You know?
So there's all kinds of microscopes, and you do cell counts, and you do QC to make sure you don't have unwanted bacteria in there, and you take appropriate steps if you see anything creeping in. So there's a whole different side of it on the microbiology side. It's really important to keep things on the consistency level. You want every batch to taste the same, and in a small brewery, that's the toughest thing.
Tough, huh?
Yeah, extremely tough. So that's the toughest part, to make every batch taste the same.
That's a great segue into equipment. That statement right there. So let's talk about your the equipment. I see if you go to the Facebook page, this is Copper Top Brewing Company, and you could see some pictures of you bringing in some tanks there. Talk to us about the tanks and what you got.
Yeah, so we had a custom fabricated system built at DME up in Prince Edward Island, Canada. One of our big things from the beginning was we wanted everything manufactured in North America. We explored every supplier in the U.S., and because everybody's so busy, they couldn't get us equipment for 9 to 12 months. We needed it faster than that, so we ended up with DME in Prince Edward Island, Canada. Great company. They've been around over 20 years. Really know what they're doing. So we custom designed the entire system up there, 20-barrel brewing system, and we kind of engineered every little piece and part on there to custom specifications.
That's a nice size.
Yeah, so reference, each batch is 600 gallons.
Yeah.
And then, some of the fermenters and tanks we have are 40 barrels, so that's about 1,200 gallons roughly. So good size. We want to be able to supply the tasting room, but we also want to be able to get enough beer out to the local market that we can do some distribution. So we feel that that's about the perfect size to do that.
Absolutely. And so how about cooperage? Have you thought about that yet?
Cooperage, yeah. We again are going high quality cooperage. We're not bringing in any tanks from China. We're not bringing in any kegs from China. We're trying to do everything the best way we can, not to fight issues, and we want to support the North American economy and stuff like that. So
that's phenomenal.
We've got about 500 kegs on order that should be in a couple of weeks.
I bought stock in American Steel because I have insight into the what's going on out there, and it's been phenomenal for me. I mean, that stock has been up forever. It just keeps going.
Oh yeah, I got some too.
No, you should though. I mean, it's not it's not that expensive, but look, there's so many people putting together breweries, and they're just going to be more. And it's American Steel.
American Steel.
I mean, it's a real good insight. If I would have told you plastics years ago, son.
Yeah,
You'd
man.
be a rich man today.
Speaking of plastics, how about beer? Just
American
nice segue
Steel.
there. That was
okay. Well, it's almost
absolutely
quarter
not
till,
a smooth transition there.
Let's do it. So we got some awesome beer coming up, and I see here that you've made a pumpkin, huh?
We did a pumpkin beer.
Oh!
And we call this the Pumpkin Queen.
We should have started on that a little bit sooner there.
When he's going to dress up in his outfit, right?
There's a thing called pumpkining. I don't want to talk about it on your show.
We don't want to get into that.
No, you don't.
Damn squeaky teeth.
On Halloween. Oh yeah.
So anyway,
No, I hold
this
that
is great.
show
This
once
is that's a 32-ounce growler you got there. Nice.
This is
64.
64,
It's a 64.
which is actually illegal in
Yeah, I was
Florida.
going to say.
It's a 32. It's a 32. But
yeah, that's what I was saying.
30, It's a big 32.
Yeah.
Love illegals.
That's great. So, that is beautiful, man.
So
Look at
what we did with this
color
one was,
exceptional. My God.
we used all the classic fall spices. So we used cinnamon, nutmeg, clove. We threw in a good amount of ginger for a good spicy finish.
What a wonderful smell.
We put in molasses.
This could be a scented candle.
Put in brown sugar. We put in maple syrup,
which
vanilla.
are all very hard to brew with, right?
goodness.
Because they change your attenuation. They're
very hard to
sugars,
brew with.
right?
But we wanted a big, bold, fall scented beer. Love these fall spices.
Stick a wick in this. I want a candle that smells like this.
Insane, man.
But here's what we wanted out of it: is we wanted a dry finishing beer that wasn't sticky, sugary, sweet like a lot of the pumpkin beers you get. So you can sit back and you can actually, drink, 4 or 5 of these. Very drinkable.
You know what I like about it, George?
I was afraid to, that it would be overbearing based on how it smells. But it's
I gotta
really
say,
delicious.
you get all those just nuances of the spice. Like we talked about, a lot of complexity. It's very, very dynamic. There's so many spices and like all those things that you mentioned, Matt, coming through in the aromatics of this beer. But then as it works through your palate, it falls away just in time to where it's not inundating, and then you get just a hair of pumpkin pie. That cream that comes from a pumpkin pie comes in the very last end.
Yeah.
How the heck did you do that?
Well, for that, we actually used real pumpkin, and we actually used roasted butternut squash as well to provide that, pumpkin and kind of squash component to it.
But it squashes it down into like the 3/4 of the last end of the drink.
It was really delicious.
This drinks in different dynamics. I mean, you taste different things over your tongue as it goes down your gullet, right?
It's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
You said gullet.
So you guys been out there. You've been doing some. I think I even ran into you at a beer festival not too long ago, Al.
Like with your car?
Del Rey, I think.
Was it Del Rey or was it New Times? Was it a New Times? Did you guys do New Times?
We didn't do the New Times one recently. We were
Maybe it was Del Rey then. I ran into you somewhere, and how's the reception from people out there? I would imagine it's amazing. But talk to me about what the people say. I mean, that's really the best feedback.
It's been fantastic. I mean, just the community has been welcoming of us. Everyone that tastes the beer thinks it's fantastic. Obviously, we're focused on quality, and it's coming out. And, everyone's asking us about it and saying, hey, when are you opening?
You were wearing a Sweetwater shirt at the Del Rey initially, weren't you? Was that you?
That was a couple years ago.
So that was you. Actually, I met you guys there, didn't I? One time. That's right.
That was the lull.
And you were with your lovely wives, weren't you? That's right. I hope
Did you say wives?
Hold on, I think hopefully they were with their wives. Otherwise, I just ratted them out. No, I'm just kidding.
We bust people all the time on these shows.
They're listening right now.
Of course they are. They should be. They should be promoting. So no, but I do remember that, and that's No, I mean the feedback. I remember when I tried the beers, the feedback was amazing. You guys, and we put you right next to the Sweetwater guy too. That was funny. Very cool. No, but I really love the fact that it's dynamic and complex, but super easy drinking. Beer shouldn't be, in order to get a big bold flavor, you shouldn't have a beer that's so intense that you almost can't drink it, right? I mean,
right. There's a lot of beers on the market that have a really intense flavor and really intense aroma, but after you take 2 sips, you're kind of done with it.
Yeah.
So if you buy a 22-ounce bottle of this really intense beer, I mean, unless you're sharing it with 10 people, how are you going to finish it?
Yes.
For me, if a beer is 5% or 15%, it needs to have some kind of balance and drinkability to it, and I don't want to have a beer that you take 2 sips and you say, it tastes good, but I'm done with it. You hear people all the time say it's good, but I could never drink a pint of it.
Right. And you see more and more breweries producing those kinds of beers too. So, talk to me about some of the people that inspire you. I mean, some of the breweries you like, professional breweries and whatnot, that you felt, wow, this beer inspires me.
I tell you what, some of the classic breweries that really done a fantastic job and still really set the bar really high are Sierra Nevada. Mm-hmm. There's Victory. Breweries down here like Cigar City.
Yes.
They're really doing a fantastic job, putting out fantastic products. Sweetwater, not because Al's any affiliation with them, but they do really good balanced beers, great drinkability, and just do a great job with it.
Yeah, and
Bear Republic, another one.
Definitely,
got to call them a house.
They just recently came too. I love that Racer IPA.
Yeah, they recently came into Florida, and one of my favorites of all time. I go to the Great American Beer Festival in Denver, Colorado every year, and one of my favorites I picked out years ago was Russian River in California, and one of my favorites of all time. And talk about guys who just really get it right. They kind of started the whole wet hop beer phenomenon. They started the kind of the double IPA phenomenon.
What about their sour program too?
And the sours, I mean, they too have tremendous balance to them. Not just because they started commercial production of sour beers, but they have great balance to them.
You think some people just drink sour beers because they're cool?
It's kind of a thing like, hey, I'm gonna drink something. It's like when you were a kid and you used to eat Sour Patch Kids and stuff like that.
When I was a kid,
hey, I can do this.
Yeah, exactly.
I got the big bag.
Yeah,
my kid likes it too. But,
Did you ever have a pickle and peanut butter sandwich?
No, but I pickled some
It's
asparagus.
the same
recently.
concept, you know what I mean? It's like you get all the pickle acid, from the vinegar acid, and then the peanut butter just mutes it out, and it gives you a really.
I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah,
And that just
I
the
ate
joke.
it in a restaurant.
I'll take your word for it.
In the southeast, it
Right.
sounds gross, but it's
Yeah, it
actually
sounds
pretty
gross.
good.
I thought he was making it up.
Sounds kinda
Well, it's
gross.
the point being, you have the acids and the malts that work together, and they're both contrasting components, and it's the same thing as a peanut butter and pickle sandwich. It's got that kind of concept to it.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to try that right away. I mean, I got a whole bunch of Reese's. Can I, put a pickle in one of those?
I'm gonna try it tomorrow or never.
One of the in between.
Well, this show's got to have a
In
little
between tomorrow
levity.
and never, I'm going to try that.
It's got to have a little levity in it too.
Sure.
Plus, I'm starting to get drunk. What the hell?
Hey, I love this, man.
No, but these beers are actually low alcohol, and you could session these all day. I mean, they're
Yeah.
very good for that too. So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of I want to be able to sit down and have 3 or 4 or 5 or 12 or something like that. So it's something that you can actually sit down and drink and enjoy and sit down with friends and hang out and have a good time with.
yeah. So you have a great pilot system that you're working off. It's got a little history to it.
Yeah, got a great pilot system, and we bought it from the guys that opened up Tequesta Brewing up in Jupiter. We bought it from them. That was the first system they worked on, and fantastic system, fantastically engineered. So 55-gallon pilot system. Nice refrigerated fermenters and all that. So we've been turning out some great pilot beers on that, and fun to work on the small scale. And I haven't worked on a brewing system on a small scale in 15 years. So fun to kind of get back to basics and do it. But the best thing is it turns out really fantastic beers. So it's fun to work on.
You really dial it in, huh?
Yeah, really dial it in tight. And, people that have never seen beer brewed before, if they come over when we're doing test batches, it's right there. It's in front of you. There's not, tons of stainless steel piping going everywhere. You can look at it. You can see it. You can smell it. And so it's fun for everybody.
Yeah, you guys get a crowd sometimes.
Yeah.
Some people in the neighborhood coming in to see what's going on and stuff. I mean, that's
Neighbors,
a wonderful. That's
cops.
a wonderful smell. Yeah, absolutely. I remember I was in was it Toronto? I was Montreal, and I don't know if they have the Molson Brewery up there. And I'm walking through the city, and this is before I even realized it. And I said, "God damn, it smells like malt." Every 15 minutes, they would mash in, and I'd smell it.
Yeah.
It would waft over the whole city. I was like, yeah, it's phenomenal,
That's
you know?
awesome.
It really is. And then you look up in the sky and you can see the Molson Brewery hovers over the whole thing, and they're mashing in every about 15 minutes. And you'd forget about it, then you'd be like, and you get a whiff of it again. And it's just it's a wonderful smell. It brings back so many memories too. So what are some of your favorite styles, Matt? I mean, that you like to?
So, I love beer that's brewed well.
Right.
No matter what it is. So, I love lagers. I love ales. One of my favorite beer styles is, well hop Pilsner.
Oh, yeah.
Love that. I love IPAs. I love Saisons. I love stouts. I love everything, but kind of like music that's done well, no matter if it's, Beethoven or, Eazy-E.
Except for country, right? Just,
what it is, throw in a little country too.
Okay.
The right
he
time
said
and place.
music. You're talking about music right now.
So yeah, just beer that's done well, and I'm really appreciate anything that's done well. So no matter what it is, but the go-to styles for me are American Pale Ales, IPAs. I love Saisons and again well hop Pilsners and stuff like that. Something you can sit around and have a few of and enjoy with friends.
Have you ever done collaborations back over your years of bringing in different people to do it at Big Bear and whatnot, or do you have any collaboration in the future? I mean, how do you feel about working with other people and kind of like you say with music, jamming with your buddies?
Yeah, it's always fun. It's fun to get in and do collaborations and get ideas together and. Through the years, just working together with people and come up with ideas and stuff like that and put things together. So, yeah, it's always a good time to put, 2 or 3 like minds together and see what you come up with. And now that, it's easier to use, Florida ingredients, whether it be honey, orange peels, local citrus or local even shellfish or stuff like that. Just wherever you go with it, it's good to incorporate all that, and always fun to get two creative minds together.
Yeah, I was talking to Tom Mensch from OBP. I don't know if you know Tom.
Yeah, I've known him for
forever, right?
Yeah.
He was talking to me about his honey. It's a problem these days. He's actually got to buy honey from somewhere else for the first time ever. Because the bees are on their knees, man. It's unfortunate.
It's the pesticides, man.
Is it?
Yeah, we're killing the bees in an effort to kill the insects that eat the crops. The bees are dying, so they have to revisit the whole pesticide thing, what we're using on the crops.
I know they outlawed the DDT a long time ago.
Yeah, but they're still
They killed the birds.
The farmers, they're killing the bees. We're gonna say that's what's going on.
But the farmers need the bees. If you wouldn't have orange blossom,
it depends on what you're farming.
Orange blossoms.
If you're a wheat farmer, whatever, bees. But obviously here in Florida we need bees, and most crops need bees. But
yeah,
that's.
Have you ever heard the story of the birds and the bees, George?
No,
I've actually never heard that story either.
Tell me.
I've been waiting for somebody to tell me it for all these years.
Sure, I don't.
I mean, I kind of got the gist of the whole thing, but I never actually heard the story.
I
right?
don't understand how that ties in. No, I really don't, because I still have no idea how they do it. Well, actually, I do, because
DDT kills the birds and the bees.
Oh, okay, yeah, it does. It does.
Actually, not a laughing matter, but so I was just kind of going into that because Florida inspired. Obviously, this year. Where'd you get your pumpkin? Where you talk about honey, you're talking about these things. Obviously everybody wants to use local stuff and everything. So, do you use Florida inspired stuff?
Yeah. So actually, one of the big things for years, I've worked with a guy that does honey out of Coconut Creek, Florida.
Oh, really?
And he does honeys all around Florida. So he does honeys from the Florida Keys. So
Brett used to. He got married.
Yeah, Georgie's a real comedian. Anyway.
Yeah,
but natural unspun.
Did black mangrove honey, which had an incredible earthy flavor to it.
Wow.
And of course, like the orange blossom honeys, but different. Go through 12 honeys, and you get 12 different flavors, and it's amazing what you could pull out of it, and to put that into the beer world. It can really coax some amazing flavors out of the beers you did with it.
So it's just amazing to me that the guy can, produce honey from all different parts of Florida, from all different types of bees. Is that how he gets the different flavors?
Yeah, different sources, and it just all goes back to where they feed. So the bees out of the mangroves in the Florida Keys had this really kind of earthy. It almost kind of tastes like when you smell the mangroves, you get that kind of earthy,
like
briny
peat soil
peat soil. It had that kind of flavor to it, and that's something I'd never experienced in honey before. So that was amazing to work with. So there's so many dynamic flavors that you can work with and coax flavors out of. It's really fun.
And then a lot of Florida agriculture too, right? That's utilizable as well.
Yeah, for sure. So everything out there from the citrus to the palm to
that's great.
Everything around.
Yeah, a lot of cane sugar too.
Yeah.
So talk to us about, please plug yourself. Where can we find Copper Top Brewery? I mean, for information, when will it be open for people to come by? We're in the last 5 minutes here, so I want you guys to spread the word.
So
went by quick, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, where we're at on that is
so did this beer you poured me.
More.
He's a lush.
So we're doing Facebook and Instagram to kind of share brewery updates. We have coppertopbrewery.com is up now, and you can plug in your email address there, and we'll email you all updates we have. But if you want to follow along, see the pictures of our progress and see how everything's going, follow on Facebook, Instagram. We're moving at a pretty quick pace right now.
What's your Instagram and what's your Twitter handle?
Copper Top Brewery.
It's all just Copper Top Brewery.
Yeah, Copper Top Brewery.
You got all that. Sometimes it has to be spliced up.
Yeah, it's simple enough. Moving forward quickly. Hope to be brewing in about 4 weeks, and hopefully the tasting room will be open. Everything ready to go in about an 8-week time frame. So just after the first of the year, we hope to have the tasting room open. There's some big events happening after the first of the year. The Jupiter Brewing Festival at the end of January is one we really look forward to every year, and we're excited to get open and be.
What's your goal? Your target goal for first year capacity? Let's say things just kind of including Pros and cons.
We're hoping for about the 1,500, 2,000 barrel mark.
Okay.
The capacity of our brewery is almost 3,000 barrels. So, we're going to try to get into
Nice
the market.
soft opening.
Yeah, nice
Easy
soft
run.
opening, get into the market slowly, make sure everything's dialed in before we, do a full market blitz. So, we're hoping to get to 1,500, 2,000 barrels. So that's between 3,000 and 4,000 kegs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Guys, I want to thank Matt Cox, Al Lattera, for coming in from Copper Top Brewing. Yeah, up there in Boynton Beach. You're going to follow these guys on Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot. We're going to get all the information and keep it in touch. You guys have been a wonderful audience. Thank you guys for coming down, and have a great evening. Everybody drive safe out there. Don't drink and drive.
SouthFloridaRadio.com, the South Florida Radio Network.